Hello, this is Annie, back for another speed build in Veronaville. I am starting to get to the last few families here now, and I'm starting to get really excited. I only have this video left and then another one that is combining 3 households into one. So after that, I'm actually done with all the families. That's very exciting. So what we're looking at here is the Chun family, and these are 5 townies that I have merged into a family. So we have the father, Jonathan, and his wife, Gretchen, and then their child, Rebecca. And then we also have Gretchen's 2 sisters, Chris and Nancy, who are living with them as well. And they are living here in this, I guess you could call it a mansion. It's actually a building that I modeled after the university lot that I created a way back, and also the house that I created for Bianca Monti right next to this one. And the idea for both this lot and the one next door is for them to be available for the university faculty. And that's actually something that I have never really played around with, because what's normal for me is that I create this great house that becomes like a family house, and that house tends to be owned by the same family through generations. So that's what's normal for me. So I can't really recall a time where I have purposefully built a building or a set of buildings that's designated for a certain career level, you know. I think that it's quite common when it comes to Build a City Challenge. I've seen people do this. For example, there are specific houses designated for certain levels within the military is what I've seen. And I guess this is a bit similar to that in that sense. So right now, the Chun family is owning this, but it all really depends on what is going to happen in future, if they are going to be staying here for a long time, or if this house is eventually going to be owned by Bianca Monti or somebody else that takes over the university. You never know what happens, but that's sort of the idea. So it's purposefully built large, like a mansion, and it's purposefully built bigger than the house next door, because my idea was that this house was for the headmaster and the house next door is for the deputy headmaster. However, as I sat down to actually build this and work out how it all should look and so on, I did come to realize that I had started to make this house way too big. So I think it was around the time that we are at now that I started to actually look into what the house looks like inside and realized that, oh my god, what monstrosity have I created? So this was actually where I had to go in with a sledgehammer and just remove a bunch of area that I have built on. I actually had to do the same thing for the house next door, so it seems like I am overestimated the amount of space I'm going to need when I'm building sometimes. Well, I guess it's easier to make something a little bit smaller than it is to extend the house, you know, feel like. So that's the plan for this house, and of course I made it into the same kind of style as the university building and the house next door. So this area of Veronaville is going to have a very distinct style, and the same style is also going to go through when I build the private school. That is planned to be opposite to this house on the other side of the road. And the idea for the private school is that eventually all of the children who is in private school, whether that is children or teenagers, are going to attend that. And then I'm going to have a public school on the other side of the river where all of the other kids are going to be. So yeah, I'm going to combine children and teenagers in this case. I felt like, you know, building 4 schools for one town was excessive. So 2 was good enough. And I've actually also planned out a daycare center as well, next to the public school. I'm not sure yet how quickly I'm going to need it though, because I think that in this town, even more than the other ones that I'm playing, the families are going to keep the children home and staying home with them, and maybe they have extended family around that they can invite over to watch the kids, grandparents, cousins, siblings and so on that can come over. And I think that this neighborhood is going to be a lot more traditional and a lot of old ideals to a further extent than I normally do. I think that some Sims, mainly mothers, will probably remain home at times with their kids instead of working. I think that will happen. That will happen for this family, for example. The wife is going to be a housewife. But I think in this case, it's mostly because she doesn't really have to work because they are so wealthy. And yeah, I think that she is the kind of character that would prefer it not to have to work if she doesn't have to. So a little bit of a gold digger, I guess you could say. And speaking of the Sims in this house, this is actually not the first marriage that Jonathan has. He was once married to the maid Gina Sivi, and they have a son together, Ji-hoon Sivi. But they are not living with him at all. Of course, he's divorced to his previous wife, but his son is not living with him, and he also doesn't have his last name anymore either. So something very dramatic happened with that breakup, and for some reason it ended up being the case that Ji-hoon picked his mother's side, and I guess he got disowned from the Chun family that way. And Jonathan sort of had to start anew with someone else. And that is where Gretchen came into play. So I think that the first marriage was probably made out of love and affection, something that, Jonathan was really attached to Gina. But then when he had to find someone new and try to, find someone to build a new family with, basically, get an heir with and so on, I don't think that affection was the first thing on his mind. And I think that for Gretchen, this was very much a marriage of convenience because, obviously Jonathan is a very wealthy man and he is also a bit older than her. So I'm thinking of her a bit like a gold digger, and also that she, had to look after her two sisters for some reason. I think that it makes sense that the Cho sisters, because Chris and Nancy still have the last name Cho, that they are an old noble family who lost their wealth somewhere along the line. So they still have a very good name and a lot of political influence and people who know them and so on. Getting married to one of those sisters is still a good match for Jonathan, but they didn't bring anything in terms of wealth to the table at all. So in that sense, it definitely was a marriage of convenience for both of them, because both of them got something out of it, And that way, Gretchen could actually provide for her two sisters and get this lavish lifestyle with a man that perhaps she didn't have a lot of affection for at the start, but there's the potential of something that could be growing there. You never know what happens after you've been staying with someone for a while. At least she's getting used to him, So that is the idea. And the two sisters are going to live here even after they start attending college, I think. I think it makes sense, especially with them living so close by. The other plan that I have for this area is to build a dormitory, and I still haven't tried out if it works or not in the main neighborhood to create one. I'm sure that it's possible because you should just be able to use the change lot zoning cheat. Yeah, I think it's just the change lot zoning dorm, and it should work. But the only thing that I don't know is that, if it's in the main neighborhood, will it actually function as a dorm, or will something be messed up? So that's something that I want to try out first. Otherwise, the other solution would be to create an apartment lot, I guess, that they could rent together, similarly to how I've done things in my Pleasant View, where I actually have an apartment building where several students share one apartment and rent it together, and then they take out loans to be able to afford everything. So that's something that I could do as well. Another thing that I could do is to create a Greek house, maybe. So if the dorm thing isn't really working out, I could say that if you want to live on campus, you have to join the Greek house. But that's also something that I don't know if it works in the main neighborhood or not. It all depends on how extensive this mod is that allows you to play out university in the main hood. So I'll have to look into that and figure something out. But both of those solutions would be fun to try out, I think. So for this house, I really wanted to make it look expensive and old. And I guess that this style is a little bit different than a lot of the other houses that I built so far in town. There's a lot more white, and I feel like the style is a little bit more French, maybe, in some ways. It reminds me a little bit about Versailles, at least these white paneled walls in the entrance hall and the tile floors. But yeah, I guess there's some buildings in the UK that has this influence as well. So somehow it makes sense anyway. And also in a lot of Shakespearean plays, there's French characters as well. So why not add in a little bit of a French touch here as well? So Jonathan, of course, is going to be the sim who is owning the university. So the idea is that I'm going to be traveling with him to work. And I think that the best solution is to use his workday for actually summoning in the students as well and make sure that they have their classes. I tried both versions in Pleasant View, that I either go one by one with the students and have them attend lectures and so on at the library. But I've also tried to use the owner of the library in town. Oh yeah, here I had to save quickly and use the burninator to nuke those butterflies. Otherwise it wouldn't allow me to put down the fence. But the other way that I've done it in Pleasant View is to actually go with the library owner and then summon in the sims for class. And I think that that actually works better. It's a lot more manageable. And obviously the students can still go to the library, or in this case the university building, if they do want to study outside of classes as well. It's a good spot for it after all. And yeah, it's nice also to go somewhere and be able to meet other sims and do some more things. And I feel like even if, when you go to community lots, it feels like the days are somewhat longer as well. You get to spend more time with your sims. So that's a plus as well. So there's not really a Shakespearean play for this family because they don't really have names that appears as characters. I looked it up, and the only results I got from Googling on these names was either Shakespeare's descendants had these names, some of them, and some researchers, but no characters, unfortunately. But I have been just looking into more of the stories as I go, and certainly there are a bunch of different pieces of drama that you can draw inspiration from. Most recently, I was watching the Merry Wives of Windsor, actually. That was quite fun. It was a lot of, clever characters trying to outwit each other. And it was a quite humorous play. A lot of romantic entanglements, but it was basically two wives just making fun of this man who wanted to seduce both of them, and then their husband, or one of the husbands, got really, really jealous and tried to stop that from happening. And they had a lot of fun with it, I guess. So that is something that you could, draw inspiration from, perhaps. For example, if there's some romance sim out there who would like to flirt with Gretchen, then she could find a friend and put something together, perhaps to make fun of him. That's possible. I think there's plenty of romance sims actually living in the the commercial area of town that could fit the bill for sure. I'm also interested to see how things turn out with Ji-hoon, because Jonathan literally had an heir before this, and I'm assuming that he put in a lot of time and effort and love and affection into raising him and making sure that he was a good heir for him to follow in his footsteps somehow. And then it all was flipped on his side. And I'm assuming he still harbors some kind of love for him, but maybe pride is keeping him away from his son at this point, and maybe his son really doesn't want to see his father. That's very possible. And speaking of heirs and following in Sim's footsteps, I have started to consider if maybe I want some of these Sims that I've started to look into and build houses for here now to be engaged to one another, possibly. It is a little bit early for Rebecca in this case, because she's only just become a child. But for both the Cap family and the Monty family, she would be a very interesting match, because the Chun family is a very wealthy and influential family, but they're not connected to either the Cap or the Monty side, really. Compare that to the Turner family, for example, that's living right next to the Monty family, and they're very closely tied to them, and they live in the same kind of house, and they have a lot of things in common, and I think that they are very closely knitted. So if their son would all of a sudden be engaged to a Cap, then that would be very messy. But in this case, this area of town is like its own little district, and it's not connected at all to either side, even if it's very close to the Caps, of course. We also have Bianca Monti, who's very influential here, who has no trouble living on this side of things. So yeah, that could be interesting. So we have Benedict Monti, for example, who could be interesting. But then again, we also have Hal Cap, who could be an interesting match as well. So who knows? I'm not sure. The only thing that might be a deciding factor in this case is that, so far at least, Nathan doesn't have a son. So he would have to match his daughter with someone who wouldn't mind changing their last name, if he wants the Chun family name to continue on, that is. And one thing that we know about the Montis is that it's patriarchal, so they are not very likely to want to change the last names of their sons because they are the ones who are supposed to keep the line on. Of course, we have Mercutio and Romeo, who both will be first in line to be like the next heirs. And Benedict isn't really, probably not going to be very affected. But I'm not sure if the Montis would like it very much if he had to change his last name. On the other hand, we have the Cap family that's matriarchal, and Hal is not expected to keep the last name Cap at all if he doesn't want to, you know. So that's not going to be a problem in that sense. So I think that perhaps in this case, a match with the Cap family might be a little bit more advantageous for this family. But yeah, who knows what will happen. And then, of course, obviously we have the two sisters as well, who, even if they are a little bit disconnected from things, you could say, they just have their sister, and they're living in her new house with her husband, and they don't really own anything themselves except their good name and the family renown, I guess you could say. So yeah, matching with them might be interesting for some people as well. And I haven't got anything planned out for that, but I think that, yeah, certainly Gretchen, but perhaps Jonathan as well, because they're now connected to his family, would be very controlling in that work to find a good partner for them both. So yeah, I'm not sure. And of course, Jonathan doesn't care at all about making sure that the Cho last name continues. So, oh yeah, this is the table and counter controller that I'm placing down here, because I put in a breakfast table here in this room, but I didn't want them to eat lunch and dinner here. So I put down this controller so that this table is only usable for the Sims when they eat breakfast and if they have like a midnight snack. So that's what I did. Yeah, so Jonathan doesn't care at all about the Cho last name, but of course Gretchen does. So I think that she would also prefer it if at least one of her sisters would be able to continue on with that name. But then again, I think that for Chris and Nancy, it would be far more acceptable for them to just marry for love, because they don't have any parents guiding them through this. They're doing this on their own with their sister's help, of course. So yeah, I think that they might end up just following their hearts. And that's actually quite nice to have a little bit of a mix, not to have everything to be too controlled. So when I built this, I wasn't sure what room would contain what, so I just placed down archways everywhere on this floor. But as I started to furnish this, I realized that this room would be the best place to have a study. So I ended up switching out that archway for a door, because I feel like if you have a study, you want to be able to close the door after you to have some privacy. So I put down 2 computers here, and one of them is obviously for Jonathan, but yeah, I just sort of figured that Gretchen would want to have something as well. Not that she would be bringing any work home, but I think that she has other interests as well, and having her own computer in here would be a good thing for her, I think. And then I placed down these bookshelves, and then I proceeded to spend like, I don't know, half an hour or something adding in, yeah, like furnishing them, I guess you could say, piece by piece. It turned out quite nicely, but it took a long time. And then I'm continuing on with the same theme as for the other houses, that I'm just placing down some random hobby objects here and there, because I don't know what hobbies my Sims are going to have at the end of things, but I figured that an easel might be a good idea. And I'm also going to end up placing down a chess table, for example. Things like that seems to fit in with this kind of house. I was also considering adding in a pool table, actually, but in the end I actually didn't have anywhere to stuff it, so it wasn't meant to be. So in this room I started out by placing down a large TV, furniture, and some bookshelves along this long wall. And it looked okay, but there was something that just felt off to me. And I started to try out with different swatches here. I tried to change out the swatch of the fireplace as well, and I tried out some different solutions with other things here, but it just felt wrong for some reason. And it's like that sometimes. I feel like you have to actually plop something down and take a look at it and what it looks like before you can actually understand what it will look like. So, because even if something seems like it would fit perfectly in theory, it's not always the case. Sometimes when something feels like this is not going to work at all, it turns out to actually be the perfect thing. So yeah, that was the case this time. And I ended up going with this sort of solution that I've used a little bit in my strange town, and I think also in downtown, actually, in some of the apartments, that I placed down bookshelves on the side and then a TV furniture and then a shelf above it to sort of tie the two bookshelves together in a way, so it doesn't look so empty in the middle there. So just adding in some decorative books here. Another interesting aspect to this family is that Gretchen is a romance sim. Jonathan is a knowledge sim, so he has everything he could wish around him, with this lavish house, all of these bookshelves, and also the full university building. Like, he couldn't be happier with his lot in life. But Gretchen, being married like this, it might become a little bit of trouble down the line. And that also ties together with the fact that I think a little bit of her as a gold digger, because I think that she likes Jonathan well enough, and he is one of her paramours, but I certainly think that she would like to have more. So yeah, there could definitely be a lot of whimsical Shakespearean drama going on in this house after a while. Who knows? And who knows also, Jonathan lost his first wife after some kind of drama, and what happens then if his second wife is turned out to be a cheat? He might be swearing off women altogether after that. Well. So this is the room where I was considering maybe adding in a pool table, but I felt like adding in a bar would be a better solution, because I feel like in this house it's not only meant as a family building, it's also meant to be a social building, somewhere where you could entertain important guests that come to visit the university, that they are probably visiting the lecture halls and so on, and then they're coming over here for dinner. So that could be one of the main uses for this house, really. It's not meant to be only for the family. And this room would aid in that, I think. And we also have a piano in here, so that one of the kids or someone, maybe Gretchen, someone could be playing for the guests as they arrive as well, to show off. Well, entertain, I should say, maybe. That's a bit more generous. But that's something that I feel like you always read about in these old novels, like from Charlotte Bronte or what is the other author's name? Jane Austen. In those kinds of novels, there's always someone who's gonna sit down at the piano and play to entertain guests. So yeah, that was the idea as well. And then there's a bunch of random different style artwork in here, and I feel like maybe this is contributions coming from a bunch of different headmasters in the past who has lived here and had vastly different tastes. And maybe Jonathan at this point has just kept the most expensive ones, but they don't necessarily look the best together, you know? That's sort of what it ended up being like downstairs. Now we have 2 bathrooms in this house. They're both upstairs. I wasn't able to find a good place for a smaller bathroom downstairs because it would have been really awkward to squeeze one in, I think. So it ended up being a better fit to just have them upstairs. So I guess this ensuite is just gonna be for Jonathan and Gretchen, but the other bathroom actually has a door that leads out into the hallway, so that one is going to be usable for the guests, I suppose. And if you take a look at Gretchen's sisters, we have the elder one called Chris, who is a fortune sim, and then the youngest sister, Nancy, who is a family sim. And I suppose that it would make sense actually if they are handling the fall from grace for their family in vastly different ways. Obviously, Gretchen has found herself a wealthy husband and made sure to carve out a good living for herself. Whereas I think that Chris might be resenting her a little bit for doing it this way, because I feel like Chris would possibly be more independent and want to build her own fortune by her own hard work rather than getting it for free like this. And then we also have Nancy, who might not care overly much about, whatever path her sisters are taking, but she might be the one who has been hit the most hardly by her disgraced family, because if family is the most important thing for her, then falling into ruination would be a very, very hard blow. And obviously they don't have any parents either, so I think that whatever happened, it was very dramatic, and it left them alone as well. So they have a hard path in front of them, really, potentially. And I think that Nancy would be perhaps the most of them interested in making sure that after they come through this, at the end of this, that they have regained the respect perhaps that they lost after whatever happened to their family that left them in ruins. Something that feels like a classic solution would be that they had a father who was a drunken gambler who gambled away all of the fortune, perhaps, or had a bad sense of keeping track of his money, and he invested in the wrong things, and that's how they ended up losing everything. It could be the case, of course, that they have been living for a long time without a mother, and then that they had this lousy father to rely on, and that he ended up passing away at some point as well, perhaps due to his own incompetence when it comes to money. Maybe he had loaned money from some dangerous criminals, and they came to collect, and he couldn't meet the bill, that could be the case. Something like that, I think, might have happened. So I think that these girls have a bit of a dark history, and that they are sort of trying to do whatever they can to right the situation. And then, of course, we have little Rebecca growing up amidst all of this as well. With an estranged half-brother and all of this. And I guess a lot of weight put on her shoulders as well as the sole heir right now to Jonathan's name. So I think that she would be very happy for a little brother to be born. Because even if she gets a sister, she's still going to be the heir, in that case. And I did put in a nursery because my plan is that I am going to try for another kid for them, at least. Hopefully before Gretchen shows her true colors, but you never know. So that was the idea that I placed down a nursery as well. Then, of course, little Rebecca got the biggest room here to herself. And then the Cho sisters get the way smaller rooms. They can basically fit a bed and a small desk in there, that's it. While building up Veronaville in this way and trying to map out the different parts of town and what they should contain, I can't help but start to think about, what is actually the history behind this whole neighborhood? Like, who founded it and where did it start? Was it the Cap family? Was it the Monty family? I actually think that it's probably neither. In my mind, I feel like this is a really old town that has a long ancestry, and that there's been basically two small villages that has slowly merged into one. And that is on one side of the river where the Monty family is living. I think that around the same place where the Monty Ranch is probably is where, the small village was located, because it has a lot of farmlands around it, and I'm guessing that they would still be tilling the same soil as they did back then, or at least in the same area. As for the other side of the river, I think that maybe things have moved around a little bit. Maybe the other village was closer to the river, and the road leading away from town, or possibly actually that it was located closer to this area where the university is sitting right now. It could be the case that there was like a village fire at some point that burned the old buildings to the ground. That happened quite a lot if you look at the history of old European towns, that there's been city fire after city fire after city fire, And it would make a lot of sense, though, if this was the area where things were located, because this is where I'm going to be placing down the church. And I think that if you look at these old towns, a good landmark is often a church. That's often one of the older buildings that you can see. And I think that probably the church was one of the things that was established fairly early on after the village grew in size. And that's probably where things started. So around the same area where the Monty Ranch is where I'm going to place down the Monty Church. And actually right next to this building is where I'm going to have the Cap Church. Now, those names are just sort of placeholder names, though. That's not to say that I think that the Cap family established that church, and not the Monty family on the other side either. So I'm probably going to end up renaming them and the graveyards as well to something else. But that's sort of just the way that I used as working names as I was mapping this out. But that's probably where things started out for this town, I think. And I think that I'm not sure how long ago the Cap or the Monty family actually came to this town, but I don't think that either of them were here actually from the start. I'm not sure if there's any of the families living here now who has the founder ancestry at all to this town. I think that there's been a lot of battling and rivalry and grudge and murder and things like that going on through the generations. And I also think that there's quite a few families who are now extinct. If you take a look at the Cap family tree and the Monty family tree, there are quite a few family names there, but they don't have any descendants anymore. So that could definitely be the case. And yeah, that is actually the entire build finished. It took me a while, but here we are, all done. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long this family actually stays here. I hope for quite a while, because it's a bit of a nuisance to refurnish a big house like this. But on the other hand, I guess that if a new family should move in, I should just use the stage things shrub to make sure that all of this furniture is actually here. Well, not all of them, but I guess most of them actually belongs to this house and not specifically to the Chun family, is how I imagine it. So yeah, this was a lot of fun, and I'm so happy that this part is finally finished. I hope you enjoy how it turned out. Thank you as always for watching the video. Take care. I will see you soon. Bye.